The sirens tore through the night, a wail that made your bones shake. I was halfway down my driveway when I saw the red glow flickering against the clouds, like the sky itself was warning us to run. Smoke choked the air, thick and bitter, and panic was already spreading like wildfire. At the end of the road, there was the emergency evacuation gate, chained up, padlocked, and sealed shut like a tomb. Cars jammed the narrow lane, engines growling, horns blaring. Families spilled out, shouting, some banging on the gate with whatever they could grab, a tire iron or rock. A young mom clutched her baby, screaming for help, while flames licked the ridge above, painting the night in a cruel orange blaze. I stood there, heart pounding, watching the chaos unfold, and muttered what everyone was thinking. Saw Lydia did this. She actually locked the gate. And the worst part, I'd warned her. I'd begged her to listen. 2 weeks earlier, I was slouched in a metal folding chair at the HOA meeting, sipping coffee that tasted like burnt cardboard, my head throbbing from the nonsense spewing out of Lydia's mouth. She was the HOA president, the kind of woman who wore her authority like a crown and smiled like she was doing you a favor by ruining your day. Standing by a projector screen with text so tiny no one could read it, she announced, with that smug little grin, that she'd padlocked the evacuation gate at the edge of her neighborhood. Her reasoning? Dirt bikers were using it as a shortcut. To her, that was enough to justify cutting off the only backup exit for a community surrounded by dry pine and brittle brush. I raised my hand, keeping my voice steady-eyed, learned the hard way you don't cross Lydia without paying a price. That gate's registered with the county as an emergency egress, I said, locking it via OLAT's fire safety codes. I used to coordinate disaster logistics, spent years on evac plans. This isn't just a bad idea, it's illegal. She didn't flinch, just flipped through her papers and said, "You're always so dramatic, Nathan. Not everything's a crisis." The board, a spineless bunch too scared or lazy to challenge her, nodded like puppets. The meeting spiraled from ridiculous to terrifying. Lydia unveiled her next plan. Cameras by the gate, HOA patrols to check vehicles. Her eyes gleamed with control, like she was feeding off it. An older neighbor, Harold, mumbled something about fire risk. She shut him down so fast he shrank in his seat. Afterward, I tried talking to her alone. Offered to install a sensor system for the gate, one that'd auto-release in emergencies. I'd even pay for it. Her eyes narrowed. "Keep your gadgets off my street, Nathan. I know what happens when people like you get too comfortable. Saw people like me, saw the vet, the prepper, the guy who took things seriously." That was her favorite jab. From then on, Lydia had me in her crosshairs. HOA warnings started appearing on my door. My truck's winch was unsightly, my chicken coop's fencing non-standard. A neighbor tipped me off that Lydia's volunteers were snapping photos of my yard. My property was one of the safest around, but she didn't care. I pushed back, filed a report with the county fire marshal, sent photos of the lock. They promised to look into it, but nothing happened. Lydia was slick, calling the padlock a temporary measure, and claiming the main road was enough for evacuations. When I tried cutting the lock during a safety drill, she called the sheriff. They showed up, half laughing, but let her file a complaint for property damage. No arrest, but the message was clear. She had power, and she'd use it. I told myself I'd faced worse deployments, earthquakes, storms. A tyrant in designer sunglasses wouldn't break me. But deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before nature called her bluff. It came fast. Fire season hit early, a dry lightning strike sparking a blaze 20 miles out. By the time it was 10 miles away, the wind shifted and alerts buzzed on every phone. Our neighborhood was in the red zone. The main road was too exposed. If the fire jumped the ridge, the evac gate was our only shot. But when we got there, it was steel, rust, and a custom-reinforced padlock Lydia had bragged about. People pounded the gate, some crying, others screaming. My son, Jake, looked at me, eyes wide with fear. "Dad, what do we do?" I couldn't wait for the county or the fire department. I told Jake to get his mom, grab the dogs, and head to the barn. I'd handle it. Through the smoke, I walked to the one thing Lydia didn't know about. My project, a decommissioned M60 patent tank I'd won at a military auction years ago. She thought I was all talk. She was about to learn otherwise. The war with Lydia started long before the fire. After that HOA meeting, she made me her personal target. Every morning, I'd find her cheerful, menacing notes taped to my fence. Unapproved shed color, too many tools in the driveway, unpermitted cameras. She twisted the HOA bylaws into her own vendetta. The neighborhood wasn't full of troublemakers, just retirees, young families, folks like me trying to live quietly. But Lydia didn't want peace. She thrived on control. I didn't just complain. I dug into county regulations, pulled the HOA charter, and found she'd used community funds to weld a plate over the fire department's access box, ensuring even first responders couldn't open the gate without heavy tools. She hid it in budget lines labeled gate security. At the next meeting, I presented my findings, expecting outrage. The room was packed, but Lydia just tapped her index cards and said, "Safety's my call, Nathan. The gate's secure." Her loyalists clapped. Harold started to speak, but stopped when she glared. I tried one last time in the parking lot. "Lydia, if that gate's locked during a fire, people will die. You get that, right?" She slid on her sunglasses. "The fire department's got it handled. We don't need vigilantes playing hero." She drove off, Leah VYing me with a sinking feeling. The HOA was hers, and most folks were too scared to fight. So I planned differently. I called my buddy Marcus, a former Marine who restored military vehicles. My tank, gutted of weapons but still functional, sat on his land 10 miles out. I told him I might need it not for a fight, but to make a point. He laughed until he realized I was serious. We checked the systems, prepped the trailer, and hoped it'd never come to that. Back home, Lydia ramped up her attacks. A county code officer showed up, tipped off about illegal land use. I passed every inspection, but it was a warning. Then my cameras caught someone yanking batteries from my security. Lights, not theft, just intimidation. I started talking to neighbors, showing them fire maps, wind patterns, asking, "If the main road's blocked, what's our plan?" Heads nodded. Fear was waking them up. A small fire 8 miles away burned 2 acres, and the smell of smoke lingered. Lydia held an emergency meeting, insisting everything was fine, but people weren't buying it. The locked gate became a symbol of her control. I sent another letter to the fire marshal, copying reporters and a state rep. I wasn't stopping until someone saw the danger. The morning of the fire, the air felt wrong hot, dry, the wind restless. By noon, the alert hit. Wildfire, 70 fan tram, uncontained, evacuation routes needed. The sky turned red. An hour later, the order came, "Get out now." Neighbors flooded the streets, kids barefoot, dogs barking. My wife, Sarah, grabbed our bags while I secured the house. We joined the convoy to the evac gate, only to find it chained, smoke curling around the trees, and no way out. People screamed for 911. Jake fought tears. I told Sarah to take the back road to Marcus's and tell him it was time. I stepped out, boots crunching on gravel, and headed for the barn. The tank was my last card, and I was playing it. Inside the barn, smoke seeped through the cracks, ash falling like snow. I yanked the tarp off the M60, its green bulk gleaming in the dim light. No time for doubt. I climbed in, the hatch creaking, and fired up the engine. It coughed, then roared, shaking the walls. I radioed Marcus. "Tank's live. Fire evac. You know what to do." His reply was quick. "Godspeed, brother. Let it rip." I rolled out, the tank's weight cracking the asphalt. Cattle stared as I passed abandoned trucks. A news chopper buzzed overhead, drawn by the smoke and the sight of a tank on a country road. My phone buzzed, but I didn't stop. At the gate, the crowd was desperate, coughing, kids crying. I parked at the top of the hill, climbed out, and waved. Heads turned. Confusion became cheers. People parted as I rolled down, their faces stunned. The padlock was thick, bolted tight. No wrench could touch it, but I had 20 tons of steel. I backed up 15 feet, took a breath, and hit the throttle. The tank surged, treads ripping earth, and slammed the gate. Metal screamed, the lock shattered, and the gate collapsed. Silence followed, then a shout. "It's open. Move." Cars peeled out, tires screeching. People waved, one guy yelling, "You're a legend." I stayed until the last car, an old Dodge with an elderly couple and 2 dogs, rolled through. The man saluted. I nodded. I parked the tank and stood on it, watching the fire creep closer. Then Lydia's SUV screeched up. She stormed out, heels clicking, hat askew, screaming, "You're done, Nathan? You destroyed HOA property. I'm pressing charges." I said nothing. She climbed onto the wrecked gate, shrieking about jail. A fire truck roared in. The captain, face sooty, barked, "Who locked this gate?" Lydia stammered, "It was a precaution, trespassers." He cut her off. "You padlocked an egress in fire season?" He turned to me. "You opened it." I nodded. "Good. You saved half this neighborhood." Lydia tried the young cop next, demanding my arrest. He shrugged. "Ma'am, it's not illegal to use your own vehicle in an emergency, especially when you caused the hazard." She shrieked, but no one backed her. Neighbors shouted her down. She ignored the codes. We could have died. Phones recorded, a woman live-streamed, and fire crews confirmed the gate violate safety laws. A deputy cited Lydia, warning of an investigation. She fled, her SUV squealing away. I stayed, helping stragglers, directing traffic, loading cat carriers. The tank stood like a sentinel. That night, the fire was contained, but the story was just starting. By morning, VY Deos of the tank, the gate, and Lydia's meltdown went VY-RAL. Clips spread with dramatic music, dubbed Tank Guy versus HOA Tyrant. News outlets called, hungry for inter-VYUs. I wasn't chasing fame, but I saw the leverage. Lydia's control was slipping. She posted a desperate HOA statement, claiming I'd endangered lives, that the lock was temporary. But the fire chief's quote, "That man prevented a mass casualty event," buried her. Screenshots spread, and neighbors dug into HOA records. A lawyer, Emily, found Lydia had charged for fake security SARE VYCES and bought the padlock with community funds. The treasurer quit, board members resigned, and an open letter demanding Lydia's removal gained dozens of signatures. At the next HOA meeting, the room was packed. People held stacks of fines Lydia had issued. When she walked in, someone muttered, "Here's the queen." She tried to speak, but the crowd erupted. Stories poured out. Social media stalking, petty fines, even bullying a widow over a memorial bench. I held up the lock and said, "This almost cost us everything." I warned her. She laughed. "I didn't do this to win. I had no choice." The room roared. A vote suspended Lydia's authority. 93 fan-tram in favor. She stormed out, vowing lawsuits. The fallout was swift. Lydia's house went dark, a U-Haul spotted one night. Her cameras vanished. The HOA held a special election, and I joined a safety committee, insisting we rebuild with transparency. The gate got an auto-release system, volunteers trained, and fire breaks were reinforced. The tank? It became a monument in the park, painted with kids' handprints and "Thank you, Mr. N" in chalk. Months later, the neighborhood changed. People waved, helped each other, held a barbecue with 50 families. The tank park buzzed with kids. Emily's team wrote a new HOA charter with term limits and safety clauses, passed overwhelmingly. Lydia was gone. Her house sold to a young family. The tank story went national, veterans and fire departments reaching out. I spoke at a state ceremony, handed a plaque for valor, and gave it to Jake. "You're famous, Dad," he teased. I laughed. Lydia made sure of that. One morning, an unsigned note arrived. "Saw congratulations on your rebellion." I'm watching. Saw my gut, said it was Lydia, still bitter. But she couldn't touch us. The community she'd ruled was stronger, united by fire and a broken gate. Sarah and I sat on the porch one evening, sipping lemonade, the new gate gleaming in the distance. She asked, "Would anyone have stopped her if you hadn't?" I paused and said, "Maybe," but I wasn't betting their lives on it. The tank didn't just break a gate. It broke a cycle. Lydia's fear was gone, replaced by trust, readiness, and a community that wouldn't bow again. And that's what matters. What do you think? Did I go too far using the tank? Or was it the only way to stop Lydia? Should HOAs have the power to lock emergency gates? Or is that a disaster waiting to happen? Could the community have fought back without the drama? Or was the tank the wake-up call they needed? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories that spark a fight.